All right, Michael, this is it. This is the maiden voyage. And we decided on It Looks Good From Here as a podcast name, right?
I like it.
Okay. That's it. There's no going back now. This is final.
I'm in.
So for anybody that doesn't know me, my name's Brad. You can find me just about anywhere on the internet at Due South Brad. I've been making inspection related content now for about 5 years. And my partner here, Michael Murray, we'll introduce him here in just a second. He's been working with me now for just about a year. And we kind of got to kicking around this idea several months ago about doing a podcast, which is kind of inspection related, but also maybe like real estate focused, industry focused. I know I've got a construction background. Michael's got a construction background that we'll dive into in a minute, but we kind of wanted to bring some of our experience in terms of inspecting these things and working on these things, as well as like real estate agents and contractors, to paint a broader picture of what it is that we do, right? And what all goes into what we do, whether it be, the inspection process, the repair process, there's a lot that goes into these. And that's going to be the focus of the show. We want to try to bring some people on and have them talk about, their industry. And hopefully it just gives, a broader understanding of what it is that everybody does, what everybody's role is in this. And I promise there will be jokes, right? It's not just going to be, just dry. This is how we look at houses. But I've been doing sarcastic kind of, I can't believe they're doing this kind of videos. And, I don't really provide a lot of information. So this is a good way to kind of get that information out there. But not to waste any more time, this is Michael Murray. Now, Michael, we touched on it a second ago. You've been working with me now since March of last year, right?
Yeah, that's
And I know you weren't originally from here, right? So you just you moved down here. You decided to get into the home inspection industry, but you've got a background in construction, right? So you didn't just come into this blind. So tell me how you got started with that.
well. My background is in construction. I'm spent some time in Nashville as a project manager there, and most recently was in Auburn for maybe since 2012. I moved down here um, a year ago and started working with you some, and it's been good. I love construction. I've always kind of had a passion for architecture and construction, residential and commercial. And was kind of looking for, maybe as I looked for a little change. I finished a big project in Auburn. Was kind of looking for a little change, maybe a little lower touch business, maybe a little lower stress. At least I think it will be business, and felt like my experience in construction, home inspections could be a good thing for me. So far it's been good.
But now don't
I'm
gloss over this though. Don't gloss over this, because when people say that they build houses, like we're not talking about spec houses. Like you built art essentially, right? Like you put a lot of time and effort and energy, because when you say something a little more low touch, right? Based on some of these new builds we see, right? That doesn't seem like that would be that hard to do. But some of the stuff that you've showed me and like the projects you've been involved with, I mean, these were complex houses. This was not like a track house. These were custom homes through and through.
Yeah, custom homes. I've got a still licensed. I've got a construction company called Artisan Build. Um, we did 16 custom homes, and we did lots of different small projects too. But in this one neighborhood, we did 16, I think, custom homes, and ranging anywhere from $500,000 to maybe up to $3 million. Worked with some really talented designers and architects all over the state, a few from other states. Clients moving in from all over the place. So it's just a great experience. It was a lot of craftsman style. It was really cool. a lot of time. Definitely a different kind of industry than the home inspections. Just long timelines,
Right.
big budgets, just pretty high stress environment. But I still love that. But it is something to be said about having to be done with a project in 4 or 5 hours.
Right. Well, and then too, we look at like a lot of these new constructions around here, and then, we just don't see a lot of custom homes. So a lot of the houses we're looking at, right? I doubt they take longer than 3 months to build. From the time they pour the slab till they, put the doorknob on, this is a 3 month project, right? And then they're on to the next house, which that's the nature of it. But yeah, you were involved in, projects that were 9 months, a year long, and then that can get grueling, right? And, that's the kind of thing that I guess what I want to say is I don't want people to think of you as like the type of person that was banging out, 1,600 square foot houses, 5 and 6 a year. You were involved in some pretty extensive projects, but uh, you didn't just build houses. You also, you were kind of educated in this, right? So you've got degrees. You're a learned man. So tell everybody about, your educational background when it comes to this, because you didn't just decide one day, okay, I'm going to start building, these custom houses, and then it just happened, right? You had to do a lot of work on the front end.
Yeah, I did. I always loved construction. I started pretty young when I was sick, but when I started to drive, I started working I had a family friend who owned a construction company, and he had me working my summers when I was 16, 17, 18, and I just kind of fell in love with that, and decided to continue that at Auburn University in the building science program. I did a co-op program there. Continued to work in commercial and residential there. Um, it's a great program. Anybody's considering that or has any kids or anything that's going through it, it's been a really great program. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. And yeah, that's probably, does that answer?
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there, and then too, like to your point a second ago, it's not just building houses. Like you were involved in a lot of commercial projects, and then of course, like the residential construction aspect of it. But a degree like that, that really does prepare you for a wide variety of what's going on. Because just I know for me, right, barely a high school education. Like if we're being honest, barely. Um, and I didn't want to apply myself. It was a conscious decision made, by me. And looking back, I would have loved to have probably gone in that kind of direction. So I definitely think, if even if you're not sure, you just want to be involved in construction on some level, right? A degree like that is a great place to start. Now, let's
Don't
talk
downsell,
about.
don't downsell yourself. Brad, I work with you every day. You're incredibly smart at what you do. You know that, but
Well, my dad used to call that selectively smart. It's like he's like you're really only smart at the things you try to do. But when it comes to what we do day in and day out, right? What your experience, your background and stuff, like it does provide a lot of credibility. Now, I've worked in construction. I owned and operated my company for 21 or so years, but kind of like to your point, my dad built boats. So, I mean, I was working at 10 or 11 years old. I actually got tricked into starting work in the summers, right? I gave up my summers because I wanted a motorcycle. And my dad told me that he knew a job that paid exactly one motorcycle. And I thought that that was a one and done. And then it's like, son, you got to put gas in this motorcycle. So you need to work next summer for that. And then you're going to want a car and you got to work next summer for that. But I mean, yeah, I was 10, 11 years old out there, doing something. But I feel like a lot of the people in our industry kind of started out the same way, whether they were contractors in like a general sense. They did a little bit of everything, kind of like I did, or, they come from the building background, commercial background, insurance backgrounds. It's just, you have a lot of people, different trades that kind of end up falling into this, one way, shape, or form. And, there's sure people that, come from different backgrounds where they don't have anything related to it. But for me, it was kind of, construction adjacent, right? I didn't have to do too much. Again, going back to my high school, ways of not really wanting to apply myself, I found something that I would be good at that required the least amount of work, right? The least amount of effort. Um, so the next thing I wanted to ask you is, for somebody who, obviously came from, that high level, that you came from, in terms of just like the kinds of projects you were working on. You talked about it a second ago, but going into this where you're doing these, 3.5, 4 hour inspections, 2 a day most of the time, it's 8, 10 a week, right? How eye opening has it been to see some of the stuff that we see day in and day out? And then, just to kind of tee this up, we did a house this week. We're going to call it a renovation with innovation. But I mean, it would have been easier to find the things that they did right than compile the list of things that they did wrong. And I know for me, when I first got started, I was solo at the time. I didn't have anybody to do ride-alongs with. So I was trial by fire for me. I was so taken aback because it's like, in my mind, I had an idea of like, oh, if you do it this way, it's probably going to be wrong. But the never-ending ways that people find to screw things up, right? I mean, I'm almost to 3,000 inspections or so now, and I still see things that's just like, man, they really did it. So I know you kind of talked about it before, just being on the job, but really, I want you to dive into it. You get into one of these houses, right? I don't know which one it would have been. It would have been one of your first ones. You start looking around. Was there ever a moment where you thought, I don't know if I want to do this? I don't know if I want to look at this for the rest of my life.
Well, that's a lot of thoughts come to mind. Really, one of the funniest stories I think it happened is, I remember walking up to one of these houses that we were checking out, and Brad told me, he said, this is going to be a tough one. Uh, Sometimes I just try to get in the right mindset. Um, Before I walk in here, I just kind of zip up. I kind of get ready and do this. And so I said, all right, well, I could kind of tell the ground knee high out in the yard. It was a hot day in summer, just rained in Mobile. And I said, all right. So we walk up to the door, and he said, he just kind of patted me on. I knocked on the door, and he just kind of patted me on the back and said, all right, I'm going to be outside. You go ahead and take the inside.
Let me know if you need me.
And just turns around, walks back. That was a good experience. So, you got to talk about getting thrown into the fire there. So that was a good. I think one of the things that's probably interesting about the industry for me, coming from the building industry to the inspection industry, is I kind of had a way of doing things, right? I had my way of building houses, my way of doing a brick job, my way of doing a crawl space, my way of doing, any framing details, etc. And then when you come in to see, well, I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time in these tract homes. I mean, most of my construction has been specific and custom.
Right.
So I've actually learned a lot.
It's weird, right? But
Yeah.
it's doing what you did, right? And like you said, I was the same way for me. It's like you almost have to, you kind of have to take a step back from yourself, right? And like you said, the way that you do things. And then you just have to accept that, oh yeah, other people are going to do things different than me. And even though I wouldn't do it this way, and this doesn't look the way that I would want it to look, it is acceptable. It is a wall. This is a tile job. You know what I mean? And that part, there's an aspect of that that was tough for me to grasp. I think you probably just summed it up though by saying, you know, it's not always going to be done the way that I want it done or the way that I would have liked it done. But at the same time, it is, I guess, acceptable.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's certainly times even where I see where somebody's done something more efficiently than me. I went pretty hard to make sure that things were done correctly and at a certain level of quality, and coming behind different builders, whether it be track or custom or semi-custom, whatever it is. I've definitely learned some materials, methods, all kinds of different things and how to save money, how to, manage water intrusion, different things, just different ways. Cause there's really not a single way to do a lot of this stuff. There's best practices,
Right.
flashing principles, and there's those types of things, that, kind of stand true to everything. Right. But there's definitely certain things that, and just different uses of materials and, zip system, building systems, there's building envelope systems. There's still a lot of these industry jargon stuff, I guess I'm saying, but it's just been really educational. I think too, from a comical side or interesting side is the flipper stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, kind of see
Yeah.
what not to do. The DIY HGTV stuff that we've kind of encouraged people. We've shown everybody these beautiful photos on, Instagram and all these things, and people think they can do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
get way in over their heads, and they don't really know the methods, much less have the skill level to perform at those types of levels. So,
Well,
and
it.
that's interesting. I think that's probably the most interesting thing about what you're asking about for
Well,
me.
at some point, right, I think we're going to look back at the early part of the 2000s as like the HGTV era because, you know, say what you want to about like the 80s and, all the dark walnut and the avocado green and the harvest gold, right? But, a lot of those older houses had character, right? And, we go into these houses today and, you've seen me do it, right? I can remember a house that I've been in, 5, 6 years ago. We were just at one today where as soon as I got up on the roof and looked in the backyard, it's like, wait a minute, I inspected that house. But, when you go inside these things, they all just start to run together at some point because everything has just kind of gotten to where, everybody's got the same color flooring. Everybody's got the same color walls. Everybody's got the same color cabinets, a lot of white, a lot of gray, a lot of vinyl plank. And, I am ready to get away from that. That's something that I think I've seen just about enough of. But we've gone into some houses too. I know we went into one not too long ago. It was straight up, 1990s, right? But we were really kind of digging it because, I mean, whoever lived there, obviously they took really good care of it. But it's like, wow, this is what it was like whenever, people were trying to be different and unique, on the inside. And even like some of the older houses that we go into, like we went into to that older house today, kind of a craftsman's, or was it a craftsman style? I guess it's more like a,
Cottage craftsman.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And, but you could drive up and down that street and all those houses are similar age, but none of them really look exactly the same.
Yeah. It was
But,
really, really cool house today, actually. It just some classic issues we see with crawl space and stuff. And we can talk about
well, those older houses, everybody wants them because of the character, right? And it's like what they don't realize is like, yes, there is a lot of that. There's also a villain in that story, right? It's not just good characters, there's bad characters in these older houses, whether it be, from the plumbing, the electrical, crawl spaces, different things. And I think that's probably a part of this job that people I'm really good at it. You can you can add to this if you want to after I say this, but I don't care if you love the house or not, right? Like they're like, oh, I just really love this house. There's some problems, and I
What
think
you told me today, you told me, I said, I really love this house. You said, why don't you buy?
yeah, why don't you buy it? But I think though that's probably because if you think from the perspective of a home buyer, right? Obviously, they love the house. They put in the offer, right? And it's just so hard to go into a house in 30 minutes and take in the floor plan, the layout, the amenities, whatever, while also trying to look for things that you don't like, right? And I have talked to people before that they said that one of the hardest parts of this job, it's not finding the stuff, it's breaking the news to people.
Mm.
And, I made a video probably 2, 3 years ago. And the opening line of the video was, how many people have you made cry this week? Is it three? Because that's how many people I've made cry this week. And you've been there before. I've made other ones cry, right? But it's not like, how could you do this? How could you have bought this house? What are you thinking? But you really do have to tell them, like, somebody. That's why they hire us as inspectors, is it's like, yeah, they want it to be great, but if it's bad, they want to know about it. And I know you've seen me do that where, you know, they'll walk in and you're just like, yeah, Brad's doing whatever. I mean, we found some things, and I'll just come out of the other room like, ooh, there's a lot. Everybody buckle up, strap in. But
Ripping the Band-Aid off, you might say.
yeah,
You're pretty good. I
I,
think that
I,
that technique works pretty well, actually. I mean, we are trying to. This is going to be the biggest investment
exactly.
that
Yeah,
most anybody
exactly.
makes. I would rather take a quick hit in the stomach and avoid a $50,000 loss, or be stuck in a house that I can never get rid of, or
And
So that's, I mean, it may
And I was
seem,
going to say that you've seen me turn that around on them too, where I'll tell them that it's like, hey, at least you're finding this out today, right? For the cost of the inspection. You're
yeah,
not, saddled with a mortgage and finding this stuff out. But that part is kind of it's different, and that's something that I don't know when people get into this. You're going to have to break some hearts. You're going to have to hurt some feelings. And it's not personal, right? It's just the job. And that is one of the things that, I've got a few real estate agents in mind. Like, I'm sure I know one of them in particular. I think she'll be really good on here if I can get her to agree to it. But, you know, I remember a house that I did that she was selling. And I mean, it's not her house. Obviously she's selling it for somebody else. But I mean, there was some problems. And I'm sure that was a tough conversation that she had to have with her seller, right? But then too, she's used us on inspections on, like for her clients and stuff. And, like you said, it's not that we're setting out to make these houses bad, right? I mean, we don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other. But at the end of the day, it's really just about doing what's best for the client, right? And if that is telling them something they don't want to hear, that's just the job sometimes.
that's right. I think the clients find these places, and they make these decisions with their hearts.
Yeah.
We're kind of hired to be the head, to look at these details, and hopefully there's a meeting of the heart and the head there, because I mean, you may love this interior of this home, but if the crawl space is rotted out, you're not going to love the bill when you get that, all the problems that come with that. So, I mean, it's a balance, and I totally understand. It's such a, I used to say, even in the building industry, that it's an inherently emotional process. Building a
Well,
home, buying a
especially
home.
building. Yeah. Especially
Yeah,
like the stuff you did with the custom stuff, because spec builds, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of emotions there. We did one a couple weeks ago where emotions were high. I will I will say this, you weren't there for this, but for the reinspection, I pull up, it's late in the afternoon, right? And little like backstory, I'll try to make it quick. These people were trying to close before the end of the year. Okay. And this isn't a bash the builder type thing. I mean, I don't know, why things weren't finished or whatever, I don't, whether or, just trying to get people to, finish up on the same page. But we go do the inspection and this thing is not finished, right? I mean, it's close, but it's not finished. They're actually, I mean, they had, what do you think, probably 10 people working on it while we were there.
Well, I remember this one where the
Yeah.
dishwasher was in the living room.
Yeah, right. I guess we could just look at it and say, yeah, it's a whirlpool, all right.
Present.
So anyway, I go back a week later to do this reinspection, and I pull up and I'm answering either a text or email, I can't remember, and I see a woman walking from the house, and she has got on what is known as a brave face, right? And she's just kind of smiling, and she looked fine, right? And then once she got past the vehicles and the cul-de-sac, like her face just completely did a 180 and she was crying like within like 10 seconds. She went from like, hey, and then she's crying. And, that was just one of those where it's like, gosh, what am I walking into? But so the spec stuff can definitely be there, but the custom stuff, right? So I didn't do custom builds, but I did a lot of custom projects, remodels and repairs. And I mean, we just did a lot on that end. And people have these expectations. And, if those expectations don't look like they're going to be wrapped up in a neat bow by a certain time, and a lot of times it's like a self-imposed timeline. But like I remember doing stuff before and they're like, guys, this doesn't look like it's coming together. And it's like, yeah, because we're just getting started. This is the prep work, you know. And I'm sure, especially with like the custom builds and things, you did have a lot of managing expectations. And then, framing, for example. Framing happens so fast relative to the entirety of the project. You can go buy a house one day where it's just a bare slab, and in a week, that thing is pretty much framed and just about blacked in and ready to go. But that's when, you've got electrical, you've got plumbing, you've got insulation, you've got drywall, you've got interior finishings, floorings, paint, molding, trim, cabinetry, and that stuff just can drag. And I think that to me was probably the thing that affected me the most. It wasn't doing the work. I loved doing that kind of work, but it was more of, I'm doing this as fast as I can. And I want this to look the way that you want this to look. Now, if you want me to go faster, I can go faster, but it's going to come at a cost, which is usually not going to look the way you want it to look. And yeah, I think that was a great expression you had where it's like a disconnect between the heart and the head because people want what they want when they want it, right? And then somebody like you or I is in the middle, like trying to make that happen. But at the same time, there's a process to that. There's steps. And that is something that I know people deal with. It's the same, I'm sure in any industry, but that is tough. Now, I want to switch gears just a little bit, okay? Because we've talked now for 30 minutes and we have not even begun to touch on the fact that you are essentially a social media newbie, right? Like just this week, I'm trying to tell Michael, I'm like, Michael, you gotta be on TikTok. You gotta be on YouTube. You gotta be on these things. Now, you've always been on Instagram and Facebook in like a personal capacity. But when I'm explaining this stuff to him, he just looks at me. He's like, Brad, I'm never going to need to know TikTok dances. And I'm like, dude, it's so much bigger than that. So, so you have been getting like this crash course in social media. So tell me, because I kind of fell backwards into this. I've been making dumb videos and stuff for a while now. So for me, it's old hat. But the other day we made a video for you, right? What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to show Michael, like, look, this doesn't have to be hard. Don't overthink this, dude. And I'm trying to show him, and because I've been doing this for so long, I'm over here editing and swiping and stuff. And Michael had a true like a true boomer moment where tell everybody what you said, Michael. Whenever I got done doing the video for you, I'm like, look, you just do this, you put this here, boom, boom, boom. There's a transition. Here's your video. You said something to me, and I thought it was so funny. What was it?
I don't know exactly what I said, but was something like, man, it might be too, it might have passed me by. I've been out of this so long. Can I catch up? Because the way that Brad operates, and I guess some of you guys have seen, a lot of you have seen his videos. There's so much detail in the editing process. And I mean, it looks like, what was that Minority Report where he's moving stuff, boom, 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 boom. And I can't even keep up. I'm just trying to figure out how to load the picture. Yeah. I mean, I can't, and I've just recently figured out how to put like the little text on the photo.
You did. I saw the video the other day, and look,
Thank you.
for a split
Thank
second, I got a little jealous because I thought you were moonlighting on me. I'm like, who's helping you do this?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just, but I was when I first thing I looked at that, I'm like, hey, what is this? What is it? You know, but but to kind of go back to this, it's a different world,
Oh
and
my God.
I know, in your business and in my previous business, my previous life and that, I didn't really put a lot of stuff on social media, right? I let the project do the talking.
Yeah.
But
Word of mouth, right? Like
yeah,
that's what I believed in was, well, it's word of mouth. Like, and I stayed steady with that in the custom building industry, but, and I don't think that's the way it is anymore.
no,
I mean, I think
it's
you gotta have
gotten
presence in marketing, and this is, I mean, what are people doing? They're scrolling.
right.
This is what they're doing. So it always kind of surprises me that home inspectors, I mean, and builders, that people are even interested in this stuff. I guess we all live in houses and we like
Well,
to see.
so I attended the InterNACHI conference in Dallas, right? I was, very fortunate, got invited out there and attended that. And I got to meet a lot of the people who make content and stuff like this online. And I think that was the one thing that everybody kind of had to say was, you know, I didn't even know anybody was interested in this, right? And that was kind of like the one theme. And then, of course, everybody does things, different, but I really do think like that is a consistent thread in this. But that really just kind of goes to show you like how powerful social media is because you can take something that's so niche, right? And you can drill down into it and get so detailed and there's still an audience for it. And it doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether it be home inspections or underwater basket weaving, like somebody's interested in that. And I think that that's a big obstacle. That was wasn't necessarily an obstacle for me because I didn't really think anybody was going to watch it anyway, right? But my thing was how can I make this interesting? This is boring. So that's kind of where I got into doing like, well, I'm just going to be kind of sarcastic with this and see, if I can make one person laugh. Cause you know me, I'm constantly trying to make jokes. And, the tendency that I see with people, when you start talking to people about, oh, you should make this or you should post this. And I'm not trying to run you down, but you're guilty of this. It's like the overthinking of it, right?
Sure, sure.
Nobody's going to care about this. Nobody's going to think this is good. This isn't interesting. This isn't funny. But the other day, if, I don't want to spoil your video. I do want people to watch it, right?
Mm.
But the other day, you made a video. We put together a video real quick about you pointing out that the drawers in a vanity, right? All four drawers were doing something completely different. Okay.
Right.
And I told you that granted, it didn't set the world on fire, but you got 0 followers, Michael, right?
Sure.
You got 0 followers. But,
Yeah.
we put it on there. I told you, I'm like, somebody's going to watch it. Somebody's going to comment it. And sure enough, they did. Most of the comments positive so far, right? You did run into one though. Look, let me just kind of like pull the curtain back a little bit. So this morning, Michael's a very laid back guy. Michael's probably I'm not going to say he's the complete opposite of me, but Michael is a great contrast to my personality in the sense that Michael's very laid back. He's very chill. He's very calm, right? And Michael also has an outlook on life that's just like, you know what? I mean, people are doing their best. He's very positive. Michael tries to put a positive spin on everything. So when he climbed up into that attic with me this morning and he's like, I got my first negative comment last night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you got to hit him back. You got to hit him back. Don't let that stand. And then Michael's like, I just didn't respond. I mean, but it's not like I did this, that, or the other. 2 hours later, Michael comes to me. He's like, I responded. I said something. But now I say all that to let everybody know Michael has officially entered the world of social media where there's the people that's going to like it and then the people that's going to hate it. But you can't get bogged down by it, right? Because any engagement is by its very nature engagement. But while we're talking about social media, I want you to do two things. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you on there,
Okay.
right? But
All right.
I want you to kind of because I know like you because you weren't on TikTok, right? You didn't see a lot of my videos, but I want you to kind of like walk me through because we haven't really talked about this, but I want you to kind of walk me through like when somebody tells you like before. Yeah, I do like home inspection content. What did you think it was like versus what you've seen that it's like? Because I have a feeling that because whenever I got into doing it, that this was my thought. Because there's millions of YouTube videos about every subject. I tell this to people all the time. If you're having a problem, I don't care what it is. Some kid somewhere has made a video about this, right? So for me, I felt like there was like so much saturation at every level. It seemed pointless to do, right? And I'd love to know like what you thought when you watched a handful of like my videos or people like mine, like the other inspectors, like you watch their videos. And then what does that do to you when you're thinking like, am I supposed to make this kind of stuff too? Like, what am I supposed to do? Because that's kind of where I was. I spent a long time not watching other people's content because I didn't want to look at their content and be like, I mean, I never even would have thought of that, or I never even would have said that. I didn't want to judge my stuff against theirs. But to somebody starting out, right, what has this been like?
The social media aspects of it. Oh my gosh. One, I would just say, just trying to kind of find stuff to post. You talked about the overthinking, but I'm like initially I started with, you know, really deep building envelope, building science kind of stuff, and that I really enjoy, and short-term rental analysis and a lot of stuff, which I realized I'm going to run out of ideas pretty quick.
I'm falling asleep listening to it. And I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
But I noticed that, like, when I'm watching everybody else, man, these guys are doing stuff like these drawer videos and, oh, check out this. And they've got their little sticks and shtick, excuse
yeah,
me,
well, but some of them do have the pointers.
pointer,
Uh,
the little finger,
right.
and the guy with the backwards hat.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, just different people. I think that guy's a local guy, but
Well, there's a lot of personality in that too, right? And that's the thing I think that makes the social media because it's not that the building envelope stuff can't be good. It's not that, construction aspect of it can't be good. But it's like none of that stuff helps you or anybody really stand out, right? And it's like people have to get to know you, the person, because if they just want to be bored to death watching that kind of stuff, there's hundreds of those videos out there too. But if
yeah.
people want to get to know you as the person, right? Yeah, you got to, be willing to crack a few jokes or, get dirty. I've seen there was a guy not too long ago. He had a video where he's crawling through like a crawl space, crawling through God knows what, right? And it's like, what he was doing was not groundbreaking, right? Crawl spaces are nasty sometimes, but it's the comments, the people who are just like, I would never get out of there. They do it with my videos. I did a video the other day where I'm, poking around with a black widow, and people are like, I'm not going to be able to watch your videos, dude, if you're constantly showing spiders.
I think that's it, man. I think that is something about the vicarious living to see this kind of stuff. Like, I don't want to necessarily touch the Black Widow,
Right.
but I like to look at one on the screen. I think, just to kind of see what you do. I mean, it always surprises me. It's like people watching cat videos or whatever. People love that kind of
Love
stuff, right?
cat videos. Can't get enough
I
of
know
cat
you do. You're
videos.
a big cat video guy. But this just shaking toilets and whatever it is, but people appreciate that. I mean, I think it's just a little more base and relatable, maybe. You
That's what
don't
I'm
want to
just
feel
about
like
to
you're
say.
going to school, right? To be honest with you, when you're reading stuff.
Well, and it's the relatability because I think, the relatability is probably one of the biggest aspects of it because it's very easy for us human beings, right? Human doings, in my case, to feel like this is happening to me and it's only happening to me. I'm the only person dealing with this problem, right? And then when you see that, oh, I've got this same problem. I thought only I was dealing with that. Right. So now there's like this kinship where people feel like they're part of it. They're indirectly part of it. Because I can't tell you how many videos I've done where people jump in, like this is the exact same thing that's happened at my house. My landlord did this and it's terrible. My builder missed this and I didn't find out about it for like a year. And I didn't realize that. Going into it, I did not realize that that was going to be like a big part of it, like the big draw. And, that was the other thing because I've told this story before and I'll tell it again just for the sake of putting it on record on here. When I made TikTok videos, it was kind of at the behest of my daughter, one, and a real estate agent who I really like around here, who really, like, he's his social media game, like he's on top of it. And that was kind of his advice. He's like, just do something, make something, post something, right? People
Yeah.
will watch it. People will watch it. And he'd show me his YouTube channel. And, he's like, this is just me making a video about this. And look, people are watching it. People are responding to it. And that's what it kind of did. I just was like, well, here it is. This is what I'm looking at. One of the first videos I ever posted was a deck that broke while I was standing on it.
My
And I
God.
was like, yeah, this is good. And anyway, though, when I first started making these things, I was making them for like the 200 people from Facebook that were following me on TikTok. And, then eventually like one video hits and then it kind of takes off. Um, I wasn't thinking social media whenever I got started. I mean, I was doing inspections for like 4 years almost before I made my first video doing any of that. And that being said, though, now I've talked to people all over the place. I've had the opportunity to meet, like some of these other creators and people and help people in different states, even. Like I helped, I think it was a couple out in Texas. They didn't know how to find a good home inspector. So I kind of talked to them about that. And then they ended up finding a great inspector and they got the house, inspected. Everything went well. And then they ended up leaving me a review because I helped them. But again, it's like that process of, once people see what you're up to and what kind of stuff you're putting out there, I mean, it's better than any resume or any business card or any website that you can do, right? And I don't know. I know for you, like you said, you've kind of overthought it. Just for anybody watching, Michael is a classic overthinker, not in a bad way, but like Michael is so mindful and like everything that he wants to do, like he just wants to make sure that he's doing the best that he can possibly do. And there's been some stuff. I'm not going to say it because I don't want anybody who knows you or knows what you've had going on to be like, hey, wait, that's me.
Ones that know me know me. They know.
But
They do.
but Michael, and so like Michael's the kind of person that's like, I'm thinking about doing this, and then he'll think about it for like a week, And then when he goes back to it, he'll settle on what we talked about in the first 5 minutes. I think I'm just going to do that. It's like, okay, okay. But, but in a lot of ways, I think though, I know just from working with you, right? I know that is, it's a pro when it comes to like what you're doing because you're not worried about, I guess, going to get through here as fast as I can. You know, you are mindful about what we're looking at and the job we're trying to do. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to have a few people like yourself that I help get licensed and, you know, they work with me. And, you know, like one guy made a video today about a dryer vent that was like a water heater cap termination that they turned into a dryer vent. But you know, there's like, I mean, obviously he's doing the work, right? But there is like a sense of pride in being able to say, like, hey man, I know that guy. I knew that guy was going to be good. You know,
Mm.
it's not like I had a single like hand in it, right? Like I just helped the dude do his ride alongs. But at the same time, it
Much more.
is well,
Thank
but you know, but at the same time, it is a good feeling to know that, like, you know what? Good for that guy, right? He's able to do this and he's able to do the job he wanted to do. But, you know, when it comes to you, right? Some of the stuff that you kind of beat yourself up over a little bit is probably some of the attributes that help you the most, right?
Yeah.
You just,
I
it
push
would,
myself hard. I think we both do that. We have that quality is we both strive for excellence. And that's something I think I saw in you, and that's something that I can relate with. And you know, I told you today, I don't mind sharing this on here, is there's so much to learn. I'm sure even with you, you still learn stuff every day.
we, we learned it
Uh,
today. Like I told you about that high efficiency furnace. That's the first one I've seen in almost 9 years of doing inspections, right?
so much
First,
to learn.
first high efficiency furnace in the wild. So yeah, I mean, every day it's trying to figure out like, what is this now? Um, I know in terms of like the inspection stuff that you've done, right? You're just now, you've done hundreds of inspections with me up until this point, but you're just now getting into where you're starting to fill up the calendar with your own stuff, right? So let's
Starting to have,
take a second like to acknowledge that because you know when I got started, we talked about it a little bit earlier, I was kind of just thrown into the middle of it, right? And it took me, I mean, my first year doing it, you know, part time, I think I did 64, right? And you know, that means you were able to do in 2 or 3 months what it took me a year to do. And then, you know, at the same time though, it's like you're doing inspections for people now and you're a lot more experienced just in the process, not necessarily what to look for and the deficiencies, but you're more experienced in the process at this point than I ever would have been, you know, in that 1 year mark.
well, this is a little inside joke with me and you, Brad, but I don't want to flatter you too much. I'll just have to send
Now,
you an
please do take your
offline
time.
email.
All right. So we got to talk about the email real quick. And speaking of emails, I want to get to a couple of questions that
At some
people
point, I
did
will
send
flatter
in.
you, but go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I told you earlier, Michael's a very thoughtful guy, right? He's very mindful. Michael is probably one of the most considerate people that, you know, I've been around, right? Cause I grew up rough, right? I grew up in an era where, you know, feelings is just something you just be better off burying all of that. It's not going to help you in the real world, kid. You just bury that kind of stuff. And, I helped Michael do his ride alongs. And then, of course, it's like a formality for him because he already knows all of this stuff, but he's got to do the ride alongs. He's got to get his license. And let me tell you how he does this. He doesn't just like do it. He, he, he comes to work. It was so ominous, right? What I'm about to tell you, I want you to know like it gripped my little Grinch heart with fear because he comes to work one day. He gets his license. He gets his license and he comes to work one day and he's like, yeah, you know, I got the email. I'm a licensed home inspector now. And I'm like, all right, man, good for you. Congratulations, And then he's like, I've tried to think about like a way to thank you for helping me. And I'm just like, Michael, don't worry about it. And he just keeps going. And he says, and I think what I'm going to do is just so that I make sure that I get it all in there, I'm going to send you an email. I want you to know, right? I've been threatened and I felt better about it than him saying that he was going to send me this email. So I can't remember if
Comfortable.
I can't remember if he sent me the email that day or if he made me sweat and he like waited one more day. But I remember I was sitting here, I was doing some work, right? And I see the little email icon come up. And I'm just thinking, like, what is this? And I click on it and I'm like, oh my God, he sent me an email. So then I open it. And when I open it, I just kind of I don't really skim it to like where I'm trying to read words. I'm just trying to look at the link. And this thing just kept going. I mean, it just kept going. And I would rather you criticize me than give me a compliment. I've been that way my whole life. I would do jobs for people that was like pristine work, right? And people would walk in, they'd be like, Brad, this looks amazing. And it's like, well, it's not all amazing. If you look right over here, here's a run in the paint. Look at this scratch on this trim. I mean, definitely could have done better there. And I don't know why I'm that way. I just don't know. But he sends me this email. And I'm going to tell you right now, it made me want to peel my own skin off. Now, I did what anybody would do in that situation. I went to work the next day. He's there. And I told him, I said, Michael, I saw your email. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. but, he put his heart and soul into this email. And to this day, it is one of the nicest things that anybody has ever said to me, right? But I want you to know, like, if I could have unzipped myself and stepped out of this and just done something else and lived another life where I didn't have to read emails, I would have done it. I would have done it in a
We
heartbeat.
doesn't like to hear it, but Brad's one of the most generous people that y'all will ever meet.
You're
You may
breaking up,
see,
Michael.
you may see, you may see a hard exterior on his social media, but that's a very different person that I see every day. So what he does for home inspectors with the mentorship program, we'll have to talk about it. I know we got a limited amount of time, but on this podcast, but the stuff that you've done for me and the stuff that you've done as I've witnessed you do for these others, he doesn't have to do that. And it's an incredible amount of time and effort. And he has been an open book. So I hope we get more of that in this podcast, more of this open book.
I'm looking forward to it. My face feels hot. I feel,
I'm done, Brad.
I feel like I'm
done.
200 degrees over here.
I'm done.
While we were talking about emails, though, I have gotten some questions. Okay. So if you did not see it, right, we did a test episode. Okay. Now we botched it, right? This test episode was only slightly worse than this one. But when we did the test episode, I'm trying to sign off. I put my big fat thumb over the camera like a just complete rookie. And but one of the things we did in the little clip that we put out on the internet, kind of a teaser, right? A little appetizer, if you will, is I told people to, if you have any questions, send them to me, right? Now, I really thought and hoped that we would be 6 months into this before somebody sent me questions. But you all right over there, buddy?
Sorry.
But
I had to charge this thing up. Sorry.
But I did get some questions. All right. And we're going to try to clock this at an hour. We're 54 minutes in, so I'm going to try to make this quick. But one of the questions was, okay, what types of people do we want to have on here? And kind of going back to what Michael was just talking about, I really do hope to get on some of, the other inspectors that I've helped get licensed, right? And I mean, these are guys that are up and running. They got their business going. I mean, I wish them all the success in the world and they're doing great. But I do want to kind of get those guys on here. Had another couple of people on TikTok say that they'd like to see us get some of the content creators on, whether it be inspectors. Had a roofer mention, that she'd like to be on the show. And that's kind of what we're looking at, right? So to answer that question of what types of people and, personalities do we want to have on here? I mean, that's it, right? Because I can tell you my side of it and Michael can tell you his side of it, but had another guy, he said that, he'd like to see some testimonials, maybe from like some clients who were really dead set on a house. And then because of my inspection, they're just not willing to do it. And then Michael's brought up, some great points. I know, Michael, you thought that we should get some of these contractors on here. I know you've got like a few contacts around that, you've talked about maybe getting them involved. So that's kind of what we want the show to be. That's kind of, what we want it to look like, where it's not just us telling you about loose doorknobs and, crappy crawl spaces, where, we can get some information out here that maybe helps you, like I said, if whatever industry you're in, because you brought this up, and I think we should find a contractor who doesn't like us.
Ooh, I like this idea.
But not in the sense that they just get on here and cuss us out for an hour, but just in the sense that they get on here and like, because I mean, we go through, we do these reports. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. I mean, somebody's got to deal with that. Right.
Mhm.
So I would like to hear from somebody who has basically got a bone to pick, So I know, we can work on that. And then, I know you've got, so Michael, one of Michael's social media ideas. And Michael, real quick, tell
Sure.
everybody where they can find you on
Uh,
social media.
Thank you, Brad. I'm building it currently. Gulf Star Inspections. I
You
think
can
I've
be
got.
his first follower.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. I think I have 7 followers on TikTok
Jesus.
now.
All
That's a
right.
big deal.
I mean, I'm
Big
doing
deal.
good too. I got stuff going on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to rub it in your
Yeah.
face. And then I got but I'm having fun with it. But Instagram, Gulf Star Inspections, Facebook, all of that. It should be all the same. YouTube, just kind of getting it rolling. So excited to be doing this podcast with you.
Yeah. So believe it or not, we had talked about earlier, we said we're going to try to do 30 minutes. And we ended up doing an hour. We're at 58 minutes. Right. And, that just kind of goes to show like there's a lot to talk about in terms of what we do. And then of course the stories and stuff that goes into it. But I really hope, right? The goal is to do a year of this. And then I really hope that we can get people on here who just kind of provide that extra insight, love us or hate us. I know some of the real estate agents that I have in mind, they have learned to like me, but it started as hate. It started there. Michael's, just kind of dipping his feet or dipping his toes into that world. So I cannot wait. Just kind of like the social media thing where you got the negative comment. I can't wait till you tell me one day, like, got this real estate agent acting like I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, because I want to see like how quickly the whole Michael, Zen persona fades away. Because I just have a feeling that when somebody jumps all over you and starts cussing you out and telling you to meet him in the Walmart parking lot, right? I just don't know how positive you're going to be. And on that day, I just hope that I'm there to see it because I'm just going to be like this. I do like to jazz Michael up. Well,
I'll let you know that happens.
but Michael, I guess this is it. We're gonna end it here. We're at 59 minutes and just some seconds before 1 hour. But what we're gonna try to do is put these out on the first Tuesday of the month and the third Tuesday of the month. You can find me everywhere. Due South Brad. That's just about every social media platform you can think of. You can find Michael at Gulf Star Inspections. And if you have any questions for me, myself, Michael, send them to us. We'll try to get them on here and talk about it. That's it. We did it. Mission accomplished. I feel
Well
like
done.
this is a great success. And we'll see everybody in 2 weeks, God willing.
See you guys.